I used to work the night shift at a gas station just off a lonely stretch of highway in Nebraska. You know the kind. Fluorescent lights buzzing like dying insects, the smell of stale coffee lingering in the air, and an uneasy quiet that settled in after midnight. The kind of place where truckers come and go, where drifters stop for a pack of smokes, where strange things can happen in the dead of night. It wasn't a bad gig, all things considered. It paid enough, and I liked the solitude. Most nights, I just sat behind the counter, scrolling on my phone, occasionally ringing someone up for gas or beer. But then, there were the weird nights, the ones that made my skin crawl. It started with small things, lights flickering for no reason, the security cameras cutting out at random. Once I found all the chip bags in aisle 2 on the floor, like someone had swept an arm across the shelf, but no one had come in. I checked the cameras, just static. One night, about a month into the job, I was restocking the fridge when I heard the bell ding. I turned, expecting to see a customer, but the store was empty. The door hadn't opened. The bell had just rung. I shook it off. Maybe a wiring issue, I told myself. Maybe I was just tired. But when I turned back to the fridge, the glass was fogged up. And there, in the condensation, was a message. A single word, scrawled by an unseen hand. Run. My stomach dropped. I wiped the glass clean, my heart hammering in my chest. I looked around, trying to shake the feeling of being watched, but there was no one there, just the hum of the coolers and the low drone of the lights overhead. That was the first night I felt it. That creeping, suffocating presence. Like something was just outside my vision, waiting for me to notice it. But I didn't leave. I should have. But I didn't. The next night, things got worse. It was around 2 a.m. when a man walked in. At least I think it was a man. He was tall, too tall, with limbs that seemed just a little too long. His hoodie was pulled up, casting his face in shadow, but his mouth, God, his mouth, was twisted in an unnatural grin, like he was forcing himself to smile. He didn't say anything, just walked straight to the counter and placed a $1 bill down. "For the gas," he said, voice dry and hollow. I glanced outside. There was no car at the pump. Which pump?" I asked. His grin widened. "The one that's empty." A shiver ran down my spine. The bill in front of me was old, too old, yellowed and brittle, the kind of money that should have been out of circulation decades ago. I swallowed hard. "Sir, He leaned in close. His breath smelled like dirt. "You should leave before the lights go out." And then he turned and walked out the door. He didn't get into a car. He just walked into the darkness beyond the station's glow. And as soon as he did, the power cut. I was plunged into darkness. The only sound was the wind outside, whistling through the cracked front door. My breath hitched. I fumbled for my phone, turning on the flashlight. The beam cut through the dark, shaky in my trembling hand. I walked to the door and peered outside. He was still there, standing just beyond the reach of the lights, watching me. My fingers tightened around my phone. Something about the way he stood, so still, so patient, made my blood run cold. And then he took a step forward. I slammed the door shut and locked it. My mind raced. Who was he? What did he want? The phone at the register had no signal. My own phone somehow had lost service too. My only choice was to wait it out. Minutes passed. Maybe hours. The power flickered back on. I checked the windows. He was gone. Relief washed over me, but I wasn't stupid. I stayed put until my shift ended at dawn, when the first hints of sunlight crept over the horizon. When my replacement finally showed up, I mumbled an excuse about feeling sick and got the hell out of there. A few days later, I saw the news. Police had arrested a man suspected of multiple murders along the highway. The sketch on the screen made my stomach drop. It was him. That twisted grin, those dead eyes. He had been hunting. The station had been one of his stops, and I had been right there, alone with him in the dead of night. If he had decided to make his move, I wouldn't be here to tell the story. I never went back, not even to collect my last check. They called, of course, but I ignored it. I didn't care. Whatever was in that station, whatever was watching me from the dark, I wasn't going to be around to see what happened next. A few months later, I drove by out of curiosity. The station was abandoned, windows boarded up, closed indefinitely, painted on the door. I don't know what happened after I left. Maybe the next guy wasn't so lucky. Sometimes, late at night, I wake up in a cold sweat, feeling like someone is watching me. I check my locks twice. I avoid lonely gas stations. And every so often, I think I see him. In the distance, just beyond the streetlights, waiting.